So I'm going to share at this point exactly if the I chase disasters or disaster chase me, kind of blur. I'm not 100% sure. When the earthquake hit, it's a Friday, well, 2 weeks ago, and it was about 2:40, 2:50ish, and I was in a train with my family near Ikebukuro stations, downtown Tokyo, and suddenly the train stopped. And I was almost just falling out somewhere. And my initial thought is, oh, it's earthquake. And it's great. It's how the Japanese system of the early, that immediate, getting the earthquake information and stop the whole system of a train. So it doesn't, the train does not derail. That's good news. And the bad news is we get stuck there for almost 2 hours. And we have to work on the train, track after a while to get into the station. And the station, Japanese railway, actually they closed the whole station system because they're concerned about safety, because if there's any damage in the stations or not, they didn't know. So after that, basically we got kicked out in about midnight, and we somehow reached our house about 3 a.m. So it was really the adventure, especially that I have the small kids. But it's definitely I was in a disaster, and I saw that the first hand and how actually disaster response, how Japanese did, and both the good and bad, and that's something I also like to go over there. So right after the earthquake, we are engaged by a few clients to actually go see their facilities in the Tohoku area, and also we collected all the damage data, and we after I came back to Tokyo last Saturday, I gave all the information to the University of Tokyo and the Tokyo Institute of Technology. And actually all these things would be loaded up the peer and also ERI sites. Now, I'm sure that many of you guys been in Japan, and here's Tokyo, and epicenter is in this area, about 80 miles offshore from the main population center of Sendai. That's the epicenter. And this magnitude 9 ruptured almost 300 miles long of that rupture. So not only affected a certain area, this earthquake almost equally affect all the way down from Tohoku to Kanto area. So it was a widespread phenomenon in Japan. So first, what this tell you how actually we went up from a place called Arama, this right next to Sendai, and it keep going up in the north to all the way to Kamaishi. So this is the area really affected by the earthquake. And by the way, the nuclear plant is somewhere in here, somewhere between us and Tokyo. So fortunately, my dad, he used to work for this Quartz government nuclear company agency in Japan. So he was keep emailing me or calling me about status of how much of the radiation emission come out from the nuclear plant and which way may be blowing and so on. And so I was at so-called safe distance, about 100K from the nuclear disaster. And this is the picture from Arahama, and you can see this is about 10 kilometers from the shore, which I'm gonna take this road to kind of keep going to the shore right now. And as you can see, total destruction. Now, one of the things Japanese response, I think they did really well, is that they activate a lot of private sector like that, contractors, to clear the road. So I noticed that most of our roads being cleared, even in small cities and towns. That's something I think they did a really nice job. There's some houses, and you can see that even 10K away, there's a lot of damage by the flood. In this area, flood is about 2 meters, so it's not that very deep. But as you can see, that there are a lot of things going on. Actually, most of the debris, I believe, actually washed in from the community by the beach. So you can see that some water still stay in there. So I'm going to keep walking down the street. Now, those houses did not get damaged, and there's a water mark about 2 meters high, which is about about this much. So keep walking down the road, you see the mud and everywhere. Yep.
Kid, what day is this?
This is the about let me see. I left this is Tuesday after, so Friday and Tuesday, about, so 3 days.
15.
Yeah, about 3 days, 4 days after. And you can see the pressure of the wave. Again, this is about 8K from the beach. And this little mark here state the inspection completed. Basically what Japanese response did, they checked every car, especially this area, and make sure that no one's died in there, and they actually put a little mark here so they understand which one still exists. I mean, it's still okay or not. Some police stuff too. Just the power of a tsunami is incredible. And I would still keep going toward the beach. And one thing I noticed that here is many industrial buildings like this survived. And I'm gonna get into why a little bit later. And this beach out here, so it's really close to the tsunami area here now. And this is a steel structure standing. Now, Arama area, I know this area. When I was a kid, about I don't know, 18 or 17, I actually camped out on the beach with my friend. So I know this area, and I know that the residential district is actually really just typical Japanese modern residential area, if you can imagine that. And just now, just totally wiped out. This earthquake was a little bit different from the other earthquakes I visited, in a sense, because obviously I'm Japanese, and some area I knew about this. I know some people lived here. But I know this house, yeah.
Sorry, you can't see our hands in the.
Yeah.
I had no choice to turn the lights on. The pile indicates to me that the flood was really high there.
Yeah.
And you know the construction of that building.
Yes. Every single building's like that standing. I went in there. It's all made of either concrete or steel. And I did not see any damage, as much as I saw, damage to the concrete structure, modern concrete structures or steel structures. And this is actually made of concrete. And this is close to the beach, and the wave went up to obviously this high, very close to about the 5 meter high here. So which means about 15 feet. And this is again close to the beach, about 1 kilometer from a beach. It's a school. And you can see this is a 4-story concrete structure. And let me show you some pictures of this. And here's the gymnasium. Here's this tree basically thrust into this second floor of a gym. And this is a very typical failure in the ground floor, just flood water going through and almost exploded out on this side. That's how most of the damage is downstairs. But I didn't see any structural damage here. And the building itself, I want to show you exactly what is the vintage of this building. This looks like 1970s, maybe 80s building, but there is evidence of a seismic strengthening, which did here. You can see the braces. And the water comes almost to here, to the second floor level. But this school performed very well. There's no structural damage down there. I didn't see any cracks. And again, I saw these 2 buildings, and I wasn't sure exactly what it's made of. It looked like a typical wood construction. And get close by, it's a steel frame building. So it's a steel frame structures, and concrete structure perform very well. It's mainly because of the steel buildings anchored, I think, is better than a wood construction. That wood construction, the way it's just the anchored in, it's just really easy to be ripped out, the structure to be ripped by this water, the force of the water. But steel structure tend to be, I think, a little more better anchorage. And the distance from the school. And here's the typical foundation of the wood construction. It's very similar to California. Uses steel plates, and this is a foundation system, and has these anchor bolts there. And obviously, the building itself was washed away. Yes.
I was ask you, do you know, did people get out of this area? Just because I'm looking at this, I'm wondering what happened. I mean, did the people actually get out of there first? Or?
Actually, what really worked here is warning system. I asked many questions to many people in the different communities, and the average, what they told me is about 15 to 20 minutes timeline right after the warning. And that's about right, because the epicenter is about 80 miles away, and traveling 400 miles per hour, say, the tsunami, so it should be about 20 minutes time. And that's exactly what they told me. And they did hear the warning right after the shaking. So it started shaking happening, they basically had the warning right there, but tsunami warning from a public announcement to the cell phone to radio to TV. They have a very extensive, elaborate warning system. I believe that saved the hundreds, thousands of people. I mean, unfortunately, yes, we lost 10,000 people here, but without warning system, I bet you we lost more. But also, same time, I've been told that many people died because they tried to escape by the cars. So it caused a traffic jam, and actually flood, tsunami reached to the traffic jam. Yes?
Do you know what the focal depth was?
I think it was it was not very deep. It was a 15K?
25
25K.
And is this a subduction fault?
Subduction zone, yeah. It's basically that the Japan side went upward like that. So now I'm reaching to the ocean, to the beach. So I'm trying to go through this little bridge here to go up there. Because I remember this bridge though, because I did a camp out there 30 years ago. So this bridge has no damage. Many cases, bridge is okay as long as the perpendicular to the beach. But I'll show some pictures where the bridge is the inlet right to the ocean, and parallel to the ocean, there's some certain major damages. So go over the bridge, and you see far distance there are two houses there. Of course, I'm wondering, is that made of a steel or concrete? And I first picked this house, go right into it. Sure enough, it's concrete. So even this is so close to the ocean. This area had about 5 meter height of the tsunami water. And the high velocity, this area still performed very well. And this building is made of the concrete masonry, but you can see that this actually beach this side. So therefore, that this uplift caused by the wind, that the waves suck back in. And this is a concrete house right next to it. Now, as you know, maybe you might know, all the Japanese houses, 99% of the time is made of wood. And a case like this, I have not seen a single occasion the wood house survived. They were destroyed. So going to the beach. Now, this is one of the tsunami protection system in a sense. This is the boat sidling. It's basically the disaster. It's basically trees. It's a pine trees. It's actually, you know, probably Charlie knows. It's just a beautiful scenery in Japan. It's coastline. There's these pine trees to deflect the wind and sometimes wave, and maybe hopefully can slow down the tsunami by the dampening. But obviously this case didn't work that much. And this is the seawall I saw this area. It's about 7 feet high, about 2 meter high here. So it's not very high wall at all. And town was this side here, and as you saw, that tsunami went through almost this high. So I don't know if this actually slowed the tsunami down or not. Maybe it's too small to do that. I didn't see the evidence of this type of the structure, if it's big enough, to slow down the velocity of tsunami though.
The kid,
Yeah.
This looks like just a sea wall. This is not a tsunami wall, because normally they're just vertical or they have the curvature on the top.
No.
Is that
Only tsunami wall I see out there is either this type or bigger type.
yeah.
You know, sometimes I see that the vertical wall in a bay, but you know, it's basically what they call the bochote. That's what. I'm not a bochote expert, but you know, that's what I saw out there. So system is, here's the beach, and here's the sea walls. And here's the pine trees, and the city is right behind it. And as you can see, the power of the wave just bent those steels. And now I'm turning back and going back because it starts snowing. It's really cold out there, and you can see that the weather changed really rapidly. Yeah.
Since there are these lower tsunami walls, was there a lot of problem with having all of the water go back out? Because obviously, if they were effective against the smaller tsunami, they'd be very good dams to make lakes afterwards. But I haven't seen much display of that in the news. I wonder if you could comment on that.
I think this 2 meters may be too small, and I did see that this water stay around. I think the ones going to land kind of spread out quite a bit. So obviously, I think not much of water probably went out there. But also, same time, I did see which I'm going to show you a little bit later, 6 meter high seawalls. It's been destroyed, so there's a ways to kind of get out.
So they drained relatively quickly, or soaked into the soil, or something.
Yeah, I think that the many of
They have standing lakes that remained for long afterwards.
there are certain area like this area, the previous picture you saw, there's standing water there too, but it's almost 10K into the inland. The next to this particular seawall, I didn't see the standing water at all. It seems like everything basically kind of went out there, and some probably went back, obviously, but many since stay.
Yeah, thank you.
So now this is you can see how far Sendai is. So I'm just came out from a town, just looking at Sendai as a city here. And the Sendai is the modern, very modern, the western city in a sense. So I'm going to go up a little bit, try to be away from a nuclear disaster somehow. So now this is the town of Sendai. I spent about half day to kind of walk around to see that if I see some damage, because a certain certain reports say that high acceleration in this area, but I didn't see it. The many of the concrete walls standing there, the graves standing there. I didn't see that much of a tipping over, anything like that. Average speaking, I would be surprised if this area experienced higher than say 0.2 G. Just looking at the performance buildings. Now, however, some certain buildings did collapse. The one at Fukushima University, I know that the one school building collapsed at the third level, but it's actually built in the 1960s, very old non-ductile concrete structure. And I did see some certain pictures of a major damage in older concrete structures in the Fukushima city. It's a Western hotel. Yeah.
What are the soil conditions?
Sendai area, I'm not 100% certain that Sendai areas look like, but it's pretty back into that, close to that. Can't be that bad because it's close to the mountain. Mountains are almost right behind it. Does anyone have a knowledge based on Sendai? It must be that.
I think it's an older lagoon.
Yeah, that's about right for just looking at. It doesn't look so particularly soft. Unless go closer to the port, which we didn't go right now.
Earthquake, it had liquefaction in parts of town, but I think the dam has
No, we didn't see any. I didn't see any liquefaction in the town there.
It's all surrounded by rivers on all sides, so it's all
Yeah.
polluting.
Yeah, must be. Now, so it looked like a normal town, right? Just looking at it because there's no damage and stuff like that. But what is really weird about this is everything closed. And I think this is either Tuesday or maybe Monday. Maybe this is Wednesday. All these stores, and this is actually the drugstore, and people line up, and all the commercial is everything closed down like that. It's almost impossible to buy anything because there's nothing out there. And people line up for 3 hours, 4 hours to just buy the basic necessity.
no electricity.
There are power in certain area of towns, and power and water was restored by the Monday already, but some parts they didn't have that, so it depends on. Now this is a hotel, the hotel is closed. And let me tell you why this happened like this. There are several reasons. One main reason is the way the Japanese government decided to do disaster response. That obviously, as you know, port is broken, cannot use that. and so the airport is closed down in Sendai. And main freeway go up from Tokyo to the Tohoku is the Tohoku way, and little damage, but it's usable. But what government did is they basically allowed to only have the emergency vehicle to use that freeway. So essentially stopped 100% of commerce, private sectors, and even NGOs, the relief non-profit organizations. And that's one reason. Second one is there's no fuel. There's no gas. They lost several of the refineries and tanks, and just hard to get up the gas up there. And maybe it is caused by that also freeway closed down. And also, thirdly, many Japanese in Tokyo and Western Japan, they got panicked. They decided to fill up the gas tank. They decided to buy a whole bunch of food. So when they did that, there's nothing left to go up the north. So I was there for about a week or so. Essentially, I ate like 2 rice bowls, and I was lucky enough to live in one of the hotels, which is open, Tohoku Inn, which has its own issue too, by the way. But Tohoku Inn has the little rice bowl, every day. So I ate 2 of those in the morning, and the water. That's it. And it's definitely the situation is not very good. That I think Japanese government definitely need to open the freeway there. That's, I think, it's very important for them to do that, and hopefully they're actually doing it. And I made the same presentation to that University of Tokyo and Tokyo Institute of Technology, and I'm really, my understanding is hopefully they will have some certain contact with the Japanese government about the issue, because it's not working, that's for sure. I think this disaster is just too big to have the one government handle it. I think it seems to me that response designed to like a really localized area, like a Kobe earthquake, stuff like that, I think that approach is probably okay to make control. But if the damage spread over the 400 miles, 40% of a length of Japan, I think it's really hard to deal with by one government. I think need to have a private sector need to be engaged. I think a non-profit, the relief organization need to be engaged to do a proper response. So this is shopping mall, there's nothing out there. So I don't know exactly what people eat, And there's no fuel, so you have to walk around. Now I'm going to the Sendai airport now. Just get up a little bit south of Sendai, and this is the industrial area of the Sendai airport. And I do see the main Japanese army though. Mainly they're actually searching the bodies. That's the main mission, and also clearing the roads. Here comes Sendai airport. The only reason we are able to go around like that is that we did have the authorized the pass by Japanese government, and that really helped to go around there. You'll be able to use the freeway, and by the way, freeway, no one's on there. That's kind of really strange, Everybody want to use the freeway, but no one can use it. So we went to the airport, and appears to be structure itself. I didn't see much of a sort of earthquake effect of it, except the water. Again, this area took about 2 meters high of the water. Sendai airport located at least a 5K, maybe even 10K back into the from a beach, about maybe 5K or so. But you see that all the damage in that terminal, and they clear the what is it, runway? So therefore, now it's being used by both the U.S. and Japanese transport. Now I just finished the airport and just came out to go down the south a little bit, because what I want to see is the seawall protect this airport. So now that impact to the industry is tremendous, because many of this type of industrial buildings, this warehouse look like, located close to port, and many more port damaged by the tsunami. So it's, I think, tremendous business interruption and direct damage by this earthquake to the industry. It's Prologis, American company. That's the Japanese self-defense forces. What they do is they actually checking the bodies there. So here's, I'm driving down to looking for the seawall, and I came across this big old, can. It's interesting, in the middle of nowhere, and there's like a farmland. Where does can come from? And this is obviously the oil tank, just rolled from somewhere. And one thing I want you to take a look of this tank is its bottom side of a tank. It didn't look like much of the, I don't see any evidence of the positive anchorage to the ground. And it appears to be this, I think it was empty, because I didn't see any leaks or anything like that. So it may be half empty tank and kind of floating around. And now I found a way to go to the beach to observe the seawalls close to the airport. And it's a lot of damage in this area, but one thing I noticed that damage is not extensive compared to Arama area. Arama, which you saw in the first slides, they're really close from here, about 5K in the range. So it's in a similar beach area, actually. It's concrete structure. And you see a seawall in a little bit distance here. This looks much taller than the other one. Here there is. This is actually a big one. It must be about 6 meters high. So this is a person. So it looked like about 20 feet high. 20 feet high seawall here. It's a big seawall system, but it's definitely destroyed by the something here. So going upward. Now, what you're looking here is a land side. And there's a lot of damage in the land side. And if you go close to that, you can see a lot of erosion happening, maybe caused by suction. And if you see in the ocean side, there's no damage at all. So here's the water coming through here by wave, but it just looks almost like a brand new. There's no damage in this system and this side at all. So seawall is very strong against this wave force, but once the wave goes over it, I believe that particular action cause a lot of suctions to it. So this type of thing is not really designed to suck up like that. That's why there's a lot of erosion damage, I believe. And once you go down here, I'm going to keep walking to this end and see the whole area is broken down like that. And this is a wall system was here. So once that kind of failure happens, obviously if the water want to get out, that's probably could get out that way. It's unbelievable. I mean, 20 feet high seawall is like a mountain. It's a gigantic thing. It's just totally destroyed. So here's one example of the approach. This seawall is much bigger than the residential area, and I believe this tried to protect the airport because it's much bigger. This is one of the biggest seawall I see out there. But the approach of trying to contain the risk of tsunami by this gigantic seawall, which is okay as long as the wave is less than this height. But if it always goes over it, obviously the system doesn't work. And yeah, I think just comparing damage in this area versus Arama area, I think damage is less. I believe this definitely reduces the velocity of the tsunami. But still the shut down the airport, which is the 5K into the inland. So it's definitely I think after this, Japanese will start thinking about that. So this defense system uses seawalls as the tsunami protection. I mean, Japan spent billions of dollars in the last 20 to 30 years to build this very extensive system like that throughout this coastline. But obviously that didn't work for this magnitude 9 event. Yeah?
Would it have worked if there was just a berm built up of soil? Would that work just as well as having the concrete wall?
Well, in this case
if it's a single impact.
I don't think that's probably made a much difference because this wall is at the soil fill,
Yeah.
but you see that actually this is a concrete casting beam system here. It's very strong. I mean, going this direction is not an issue, I didn't see any damage at all. All the damage is caused by some kind of a suction going on or suck up. I don't know exactly what caused by, quite frankly, but it's not based on this impact, which is
Ken, a further question on that is the complete wash away at the point where these I don't know what you call them.
Dolos.
What?
Dolos.
Tetrapods. Where they stop, because I don't even see them in the debris beyond the point where you stood when you took the picture where there's absolutely no seawall. So the failure to run them the whole length left the seawall even more vulnerable. It's an interesting.
I think actually Professor Water pointed out exact same thing. Let's take a look. Yeah.
See, there's none of them.
Stops right here.
And they stop right at
Yeah.
that point, so it
Yeah.
created an eddy.
That's very possible.
Which actually took the seawall to the base.
That's very, very possible. I don't know why it stopped there though. No idea. And it just doesn't have here some reason, you know.
It was a gilding of the lily.
Weird.
It did it.
It's weird, you know.
How much further did the wall go past there?
It just I can see the horizon just keep going forever. I can see the end of it, you know. So Tagajo is at the right next to Sendai, so I'm kind of going up north, and you see some flood going on in Tagajo area. And this is the main highway along the coastline, Highway 45. So it's obviously stopped right there. And again, lines of this food. And this next,
We're not in Italy.
huh?
There'd be no lines.
What's that? Oh. Okay. So I saw this. This is an ocean right here. It's really close to it, and I saw the things leaning, and I want to kind of investigate, get so close to it, see what's happening there. And it's actually caused by not the soil, but it's caused by that tsunami. It's you can see this car bump into the leg, and it caused the failure. So it's not the structural failure caused by this actually force of tsunami here.
Is the wires at the top what kept that from going all the way over?
That's
Probably.
possible.
Yeah.
Look like it, maybe. Hard to say.
See, it's talking about people.
Now this is actually, again, a very typical failure here. The flood water gushing out from one end. So that's how the actually system works, you know. In a way, just looking at all those things, you know, there's definitely possible to build the cost-effective structural system to withstand the tsunami, even this magnitude. Steel, concrete structures. And once that the flood or tsunami going through, they make sure the water can escape back on the force, so that the upper structure can be preserved, can be functional. This is one of the very few pictures I took as the damage by shaking. It's not a structural damage, but you can see the walls just peeled off. This two-story steel building is built on top of a parking structure, and it's caused by the earthquake shaking. Now going up to Kasenduma, and this is a bad area actually. So here's downtown Kasenduma, going through the town. It's essentially 100% of wood buildings have been wiped out, except concrete buildings. You can see this really typical things, you know, just popping out like that. So it was really nice to have this kind of a weak wall to kind of pop out, so therefore the water can go back and forth. It's a school up here. This is actually wood construction. I wasn't quite sure exactly what it's made of, but I went in there. It's made of wood. It's concrete building, wood structure. And this is actually right at the bay of Kasenduma. It's a bay, this is a shore street right here. It's concrete structure, wood buildings. It's a 3-story concrete buildings. You can see the water come up to here. It's next to the port. And this is a very typical failure I saw out there for the steel light poles, just bending failure at the very end. That's something I saw a lot of it.
But the wooden phone posts are standing, it looks like. And if you go back one, they're all fine. Huh? Maybe they also held up the cables.
This one here?
Yeah.
Maybe the cables.
Yeah, maybe it was.
Or maybe that I don't exactly how this failed. Maybe it's a hit by debris though. You know, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It was bent this direction, so maybe when washed back, you know. Concrete structure. This is right at the bay. It's amazing. So this lady, she asked me to take a look at her building, and water come up to about here or so. So it's definitely a mess up here. Now she has a house up there. She says she's living there. It's not an issue. And she got a whole bunch of water supply. So yeah, she got a couple contractors to actually clean up the whole area so she can be on the business. So it's definitely that you can build the sustainable building like that. And she didn't do anything special to build the building. This is basically essentially the meeting the modern Japanese seismic the building code, which is very similar to what we have here. She was happy. You know, one thing about people in Tohoku area is just incredible people. You know, it's just this amazing things happen to them. They lost everything. In many cases, they lost the family members, their house and their business, and they lost the whole town. But you know, it's kind of like that. Everybody really, you know, I don't want to say optimistic. I think they are ready to take the challenge. That's the feeling I get from them. It's a Kasenmu Bay. Now, what they told me was this bay was just burning that right after the earthquake by the fire. And just looking into the bay, out to the bay, and you can see a big ship like that ungrounded. Now, if you see far distance, there's 3 tanks, there's oil tanks up there. And what they told me is that all the oils come from this, ignited, it basically burned the whole bay. And actually, fire caused the major fire in the town. And which I'm going to one of the inlet. Kasenuma got a whole bunch of little inlet like that, and this particular area essentially destroyed by both the tsunami and a fire itself. So it's really if you build in things like this, it better have quite frankly, you need to have a 20-meter high seawall to protect that system like that. Some kind of that type of dangerous lifeline should have the much bigger seawall, unless you can build this somewhere higher up. Now, Fukushima nuclear plant, as you all know, had the seawalls of about 7 meters high. So when you have a 10-meter wave coming through, naturally you lose all the emergency generator system they had. Option they had would be to make the seawall higher, or to build the emergency generator system somewhere in higher ground so it doesn't get wet. Something very simple, things like that. And there's one nuclear plant actually right above the Sendai, which survived through. And a part of the reason is that area, Japanese knew that tsunami danger risk is really high. Fukushima never thought about such a high risk, I don't think. But Sendai area, they really felt that. So the whole nuclear plant built about 10 meters above sea level. So didn't get any damage at all. So here's a town with Kasenuma. It's burned, flooded, you name it. This is a deep ocean tuna boat. I mean, this is a humongous thing. You can see how big the people is, Let's go riding in town. Now, this is something I just couldn't believe. I just couldn't believe this one. I mean, it's a Japanese postal service, And I don't know exactly what they're doing there, but they're sure going around, Very serious. The Japanese take
Is there any prospect of being able to refloat those vessels, or are they just so far in
Oh, let me show you the picture it looked like.
I mean, they look gone.
I think it's salvageable. Look like this is salvageable. Seems like it's flow right into it, but it's flood. Seems like doesn't look much of damage in that. I'm sure they will try to salvage those, those ships.
That there's any kind of way possible to refloat and get them back out building.
I don't think you can refloat because this is inside of a town now. This is about one to 2 K into from an ocean. So they somehow move this into it.
Wow.
Yeah, there are about 3 of those things in there. See, if that happens, no buildings cannot design for it. You got the tsunami, you got fire, you got deep ocean, that boat coming up here. Just have to run. It's amazing things. So I'm going up to Miami Sanriku. Now here's the freeway system. As you can see, there's no one in there. I'm going to Iwateken. It's a beautiful country, It's an unbelievably pretty place. I never went up there when I was a kid, but I didn't realize that pretty up there. It's too bad, I mean, that area is the natural beauty and also the fishing industry. So the tourism, that's a main thing in the area. So obviously all the two were destroyed completely. So even at the area which has not been destroyed, I think that the hardship for this recovering process will be tremendous, I think. There's no more place to work for them, So I'm kind of back to Kesendama now, and I'm kind of going to south to see at Minami Sanriku area. So this is town Kesendama. Now, since people don't have a fuel, what would you do to buy things? You walk. So people basically walk to the store, and this family actually walked for about 2-3 miles to go to the nearest some little convenience store, line up for 3 hours, buy some little food. I just couldn't believe, Now, you know what this guy's doing? He's really concerned about nuclear fallout, So this is actually at the very textbook. That's what was shown on Japanese TV. If you can avoid the radiation, you do this. I didn't do that. So I'm kind of going down to south, and you can see a little towns totally destroyed along the way, and many industrial facilities destroyed. So place to work definitely destroyed. Just little towns, it's gone. This is truly one of the most beautiful areas in Japan. No more. Sanriku area. Business is gone. Everything's gone. They're looking for bodies. That's the 2 of us. Now, so I parked our car right here, and this is the whole thing is washed out. It's about 30 feet erosion here, and I'm trying to go into this bay because what I saw was pretty amazing. Here's the little inlet of water coming through here, and this actually used to be rail went over like that, and this chunk, it was basically essentially the bridge itself. And go closer, it's a large concrete bridge.
Is the middle pier missing, or was it?
I think blew it away some reason. I think it's the middle part of that pier obviously destroyed. I didn't see them. I couldn't find them. I don't know exactly what happened to them. But one thing I noticed about this bridge though, I didn't see any positive reinforcement here. I didn't see anything like that, But I do see a case like this where the narrow bay and now inlet coming through, something bridge over, the velocity of a tsunami increased substantially. It's equivalent to that your garden hose just squeeze it. It's definitely at the high velocity, high pressure, and the height increases. It's a rail. Twist it up. And erosion in abutment. Peter, I think this is what you're talking about. So this is some of seawall, and our rail is right here. It's not far from it. And obviously this didn't help. Now, here's an interesting picture. this is different one of the solutions. I'm talking about structural system, maybe can take that flood and tsunami, but maybe some areas way too dangerous. Maybe it should be ag usage like that, ag land. And those people living up there, there's no damage at all, you know? This is something that obviously they knew from a long time ago that this type of a situation could be very dangerous.
Floodplain there?
I don't think I don't see any evidence to come up
Yeah,
here.
I don't see it. And,
You know.
The structure at the bottom.
But this particular tsunami didn't affect this. Doesn't mean it's gonna affect, did not affect by different tsunami, you know.
Oh, I see.
Now, so it's the end of a road. It's down to it's really close to Minami Sanriku. I wasn't able to get there because that road was washed out. But where the Japanese are working on this road system, I bet you today this thing's open. And you can see this is a road, you know, it's just eroded out. This is an asphalt road, actually. It's a river coming right through this area. And for a distance, you can see the same type of a construction of this rail system. So fell down here. Japanese Defense Forces. Some naval ship up there. Their focus right now is really the search and rescue and the body retraction. That's their focus. But I wish there are a whole bunch of NGOs out here to giving the food to people out here, you know. Where they worked out is all the Japanese government, central government sent the food to the city. That's what they did, city halls. So once you go to city hall, you can get the food. The problem with that approach is many towns, city hall doesn't exist anymore, and it's really hard to get there sometimes, you know, from countryside. Many miles, you know, there's no cars. So, and also city staff, they're not really staffed for this type of disaster. So they don't have enough manpower to do things like that. They're looking for bodies, actually.
Why do they consider finding the bodies more important than feeding the survivors?
I think that you know, that's always my question to myself too. But I think the approach is they're looking for body, but also they're looking for survivors at the same time, I believe. And they do find survivors every so often using this approach, you know. So I'm going back to the north again. It's a station up there. So this is a steel construction. Again, the evidence of a steel buildings performed fine. This looked like an explosion happened here, and but it's a typical Japanese moment frame systems. Has the tube columns and has both connections. And this right next to it, the foundation of wood construction. As you can see, that the structure itself is blown away. It's right next to the beach. This kind of structure is fine. And you can see that for a distance, the seawall and the cars on top of that. This is about 1K into the land, so this area is definitely a lot of water.
Hey kid, this is about closest to the epicenter more or less, and this building's okay?
Yeah.
Really?
You see tiles, you don't see anything.
Yeah.
I just don't see any earthquake damage in there,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, I looked, believe me, I looked, you know, I just couldn't find them.
Wow.
Are there any instruments in this area?
I don't think this area, but there are a lot of instruments in the Sendai area to Fukushima all over the places. And I do notice that some area of Sendai, I was discussing with you, you know, had a really high acceleration, like 1.75 G or something like that. And I looked at Google Map, I went to the area. It was no 1.75 G, I can tell you right now. I think there's a little peak there. There's some little noise picking up. I really do. It's just not 1.75 G in the Sendai. Maybe some localized area, certain things may be happening, but ground acceleration is not big. Just looking, observing the damage.
Talking about horizontal or vertical?
Horizontal.
Any vertical acceleration?
I think that record shows a fairly high vertical acceleration, isn't it?
8 G.
Yeah. 1.8 G recorded, but it's a spike though.
That's not fair. The records that Steve sent today were about 40-50% G in the horizontal both directions, long duration, and then the vertical was about half of that.
Yeah, but average.
He said there was a spike going high.
But that's only for like a couple stations like that though.
No. There's at least in that area. There's right now probably about half a dozen records all around there that are in the half G range.
Is that true?
I got them today.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, it must be Japanese construction good then. Because I sure
Well, it
didn't.
doesn't make any
I
sense
sure
to
didn't
look
feel like a
at-
0.5 G, in the area.
Look
I
at
mean,
an old temple with the tiles on it. I mean, that stuff was all over carbon on the ground.
that's my case.
Yeah.
Okay, Rikuzentakata is unbelievable stuff happening here. This is one of the most dangerous area in this area, I think. Now, just going up the Rikuzentakata, it's not like a whole area is destroyed. There's certain bays like that. It didn't affect much with tsunami. In many cases, I noticed that bays is kind of going up northward. Appears to be the less damaged by the tsunami. And going to Rikuzentakata here, and you can see this waterway go right into Rikuzentakata. It's a school here, and essentially this killed everything along the way, almost 6 to 7K into the mountain. So you can see that water went over this, of course. So this is the third floor of the school. And look like certain erosion going on here too. So this is scenery about Rikuzentakata. I mean, this is the fairly large size city. I mean, looking at the size of this town, probably have at least 50,000 people in there. And but it's just nothing. Just every single wood construction was washed away. And going through at the Highway 45 into the town. And I'm gonna try to get into the keep going to Highway 45. There's a bridge out here, but obviously that's washed away, and I try to go backwards. And here's a school. This is probably at least a 3K from the bay, and it's a little bit above the ground. But you can see the even the window up here is broken at the third level. I've been told by a fireman that many people actually escaped to this school, but obviously they didn't survive. They found many bodies behind the school. That's what they told me.
Which way was the water flowing?
I guess this.
Straight out.
Straight up. Okay, here's the this waterway, or river, or canal, whatever we have here, and this goes from the ocean, goes all the way like that. And let me show you some pictures. Here's a bridge pier. Used for Highway 45 go right over this. And I was looking, what happened to the bridge? There it is, down there. Here's the steel bridge. Almost half K down, and that's what happened to that. If you go look close by about this pier, you can see that there's a shear failure crack happening in the pier. So the velocity of this tsunami really focused into this concrete river per se, and zipping through the city, and goes all the way down to 6K and destroyed all along the way. And that's what the fireman told me. First, the water just go right into the river and go sideways to just come from this. That's the source of the destruction in this canal. But even that, concrete structures perform good. This is the river, what you just saw now, and this right next to it. There's two buildings standing. And they told me it's built about 2 years ago. It's concrete structure. And I didn't see any apparent structural damage. Obviously, everything inside is totally washed away.
Is there any evidence that a free-floating vessel
I didn't see any bridges in the area. I don't know. But one thing I do know is not only one bridge destroyed, but 3 bridges being destroyed. She actually found the little shoes. She was actually living on that 3rd level of this house, you know. But she wasn't there though. She was on the next town, she said, and she was looking for things. And she actually, she said she couldn't believe it. She found new shoes, you know. Okay, this is one example of a failed concrete building. Here's this concrete structure, and I see a few of those like that. It's a fairly old building, and you can see smooth bar. Doesn't have much of a strength. So the older concrete structure could be destroyed by the impact of tsunami or debris.
You think it collapsed in the earthquake before the tsunami came in?
Well, just looking at it's kind of hard to say about this particular city because everything gone, you know, and I mean that's definitely a possibility. Here's I'm going up to the river. You can see that the alongside is totally destroyed by this river. And I heard that many people living up in 5-6K inside, they didn't think the tsunami was danger because they're so far away from the ocean. But obviously proved to be otherwise for this particular condition of a layout. Japanese self-defense forces, they also again looking at survivors and debris. That dead body. Ofinato, actually this town was not so bad. Actually, just kind of drive into this town, it looks pretty normal, you know. And only place actually damaged was this commercial, the wharf district, which been washed away. But town was kind of set back inside, and there's no major river going through. So the damage was fairly limited in Ofinato. So water here seems lower than Rikuzentakata, even so close to each other. This almost, this spot comes to about 2-story high, look like, rather than 3-story and above. The fishing boats, they were actually at offshore when the tsunami hit, and I met a couple of the fishermen, and obviously they didn't feel anything when the earthquake hit or when tsunami happened because they're about 5K into the deep ocean. The only reason they knew there was tsunami hit because they heard the noise and the smoke from the town, and so they stay out over the night and looking what's going to happen there. And they said that this next to the Ofinato is next to the close to the Kasendama, so they saw the Kasendama really exploded by the oil leaks. Now, here's a great example. I saw those guys, you know, because I'm happy to look in the wharf area if there's any damage, and they're actually in this ship, and they come out to me and say, hey, you know, they haven't eaten anything for like 3 days at a time, and they asked me to give them a ride to the city hall because that's where the food is. They knew that. So I give them a ride all the way to the city hall, and they got some food and they register it. But city doesn't have any functionality to do things like that, you know. It just doesn't have enough people to do covering the whole town like that. So that's why that the people like that is kind of stranded in a sense.
Weren't they fishermen?
Yes, they're fishermen.
Then what am I missing?
Because
Taking food.
let me tell you why. They're really afraid to go out because they see a lot of wire and debris in the bay, and also they don't have much of gas left, so they're worried about doesn't have enough gas, and they know they have no access to it, so they rather wait for a guy like me to show up and give them a ride. They're waiting for structural engineers to show up. This area, I didn't see any engineers up there. There's no tagging happening in this area at all whatsoever, and I think part of it maybe nuclear things going on, so people don't want to go up there. But I saw very few people, private sectors, except the Japanese army. Okay, one example of a collapsed steel structure, which is what you see the debris, and go close by, and I want you to take a look at this column here. See, appears to be anchored. Anchorage is not very good. I don't know, or maybe rusted. So even a steel structure could fail if there's no good anchorage. So that's why I think a seismic detailing works great for tsunami. It's just like a blast, you know, have a good integrity in the building and a good strength and good toughness. I believe just observing that can take a lot of tsunami forces. Next to the steel structure, the 3-story concrete structures survived. Next to it. Okay. Charlie, can you read this?
Korayore Saki. I can't say the first. Something blurred on the left. I don't think it's hiragana.
Tsunami Shinsei Sote Kuiki. There's an English here, but it just went away. Basically, this is where Japanese predict tsunami stops. The flood of tsunami stops right here. That's what I forecasted. And I probably saw 5 of these signs. They are right on it. I mean, tsunami stops like right there, like plus minus a foot away. It's incredible. So they must did this based on 10-meter high tsunami, because I think average look like a 10 meters out here, just looking at damage. So looking 10-meter high, that's what they did, and sure enough, that's exactly what worked out. So I did hear that many people tried to escape to that, and obviously once they reached it, and they just saved their lives.
I'm sure the other ones were not swept away.
You never know. You never know. I only saw things I see out there. I thought it's pretty neat though. Right on, man. It's right in there. You know, that's pretty cool. That's like, wow. I think they couldn't predict what happened at that place like Rikuzentakata, how it actually water be pressurized. Maybe they could. I don't know. Maybe they could. Maybe they could actually. So Kamaishi is the very end of it, and I don't have not so much pictures here because that was the end of the day and it's getting really dark. But Kamaishi, again, that it's pretty similar to the Ofinato. The damage is limited to the wharf area and the commercial area. And one of the incredible thing about Kamaishi is when I drove in there, whole towns are lighted up. They got power in there, and they get the huge steel mill just lighted up, and you hear noises, you know, look like it's working. I go, wow, this is bizarre. This is what's going on in this place. And later I found out that steel mill has its own power generating systems, and it's actually owned by Nippon Steel, and they're not only operational but also they can give power to the city to make the cities going. It's incredible. It's definitely the disaster management that self-sustainability is, I think, is extremely important. For the people too, you know, first thing I did, I went back to my house in Tokyo. My parents live there. I said, hey guys, don't buy it right now. But after this disaster is done, get your food, water, and some kind of energy, battery or whatever that would be, for 1 month of supply. Because after 1 month, it'll be okay. But that 4 weeks, man, no one's gonna come to help you. No one. And I think same thing applied here, you know. I think the preparedness to be able to self-sustain for a certain amount of time, I think that makes a huge difference in welfare of the after the earthquake. Now, it's definitely this earthquake is different. Different fact is you know, I was in the main different weird ones like Haiti earthquake and Sichuan earthquake, and it killed hundreds, thousands, and 300,000 people. And I think fortunately because of the warning system, I think because of the education to the public about tsunami danger, because of the buildings, you know, designed well, especially modern structures, we lost 10,000 people, but it's definitely 10,000 too many. But it's in a sense, maybe this part design. Everybody knew that you cannot build that 20-meter high seawalls. It's not feasible to take that any kind of tsunami you can imagine. But there's a warning system. there's a signs to make sure most people can get out, and that's exactly what happened. Most people escaped. But we lost 10,000 lives. We lost cities. We lost towns. We lost a whole civilization in a sense. The question I have is that good enough, you know? I mean, when we engineer buildings, we engineer kind of like that. We engineer for life safety, for 5-year earthquake or 25-year earthquake, or we do things like that. Is that what public expects? After they lose the whole civilization, after they lose the whole business and livelihood and everybody else, you know? I think we need to do more than that. I really do think. I think public expect much more than this. And I think the first thing we should do is not spend money by government or regulation or policy. I think communication to the public is very important. Communication to the public is, okay, if you're going to build a building here, you might lose everything. But same time, if you build a 3-story high steel construction with yet the good sustainability, hey, you may be able to sustain your building. If you're able to build like that, you know, private sector driven like that, it could be very different. And I think that type of communication is very important, I thought. And those are probably lessons we can learn from this unbelievable disaster. Now, the Japanese government think that they don't need any help. That's not true at all. I mean, I can totally see that. You know, today, there's an unbelievable amount of gas shortage, and many people don't have food in the Tohoku. So I really do think only solutions is that the non-profit relief organization to really activate it to relieve the disaster there. So anyway, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
By the back door, turn the light on. Thank you. I think we have some time maybe for some questions, and if people have to leave, that's fine as well. You got a question up here?
I'm going to be on the COPRI-ACE investigation team. I'm sure in this room there are probably a lot of other people also on other investigation teams. And I'm wondering, one, as far as accessibility to these sites, you said that the roadways are generally clear. Outside of the lowlands areas, is there pretty much accessible roadways as well? And then are there any other recommendations you have for any future investigations?
When are you going to go?
We're planning on going a little bit later today just to allow for time for recovery.
Like May, June?
Yeah, probably end of April, early May, somewhere in there.
How did you get gas when you were there?
You have to have a pass. Yeah, it's not possible. I mean, right now.
So, I mean, the Japanese government has a moratorium that academics should not go north until March 29th.
Is that right?
25th or 29th.
Yeah, 28.
So I think by April, I'm sure that being taken care of. I mean, I just can imagine there's no gas going to the private sector for that long of time. I mean, that'd be a disaster, you know. If that happens, you don't want to go there for sure. But by that April, I'm sure it's probably a gas problem issue, and I'm sure by then they'll open up the freeway system, because that will be a lot of public pressure will come up to open up, you know. But once you reach up there, the access everything's there, you know. It's not a very difficult access, and that's one thing that's good about what they did right is that they made a good access really quick. So main freeways by the end of April, yeah, definitely open. That's for sure, you know. And I think you probably want to stay in either Sendai or Morioka, whichever available. I think those are great base camps. Maybe Morioka is a little better. I think less affected by the earthquake.
So at least in Tokyo, as of last night, they had about a $25 maximum gas amount that you could buy. So people were talking about going and filling up canisters of gasoline, and you can't do that.
Right.
And there's like 3-hour lines in Tokyo to get gas.
Yeah.
From those we've spoken to in the research community over there, they basically said that they don't want any international folks, probably even for a couple of weeks after they start doing their research, and then after that, they only are interested in having people who are co-teamed with an academic liaison.
I think by then it's probably okay. And I was going to tell you something. I forgot. I'll remember something.
Did you do that whole trip in one day?
No, it's like a 1 week time.
You did that in 1 week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, about 4 or 5 days time. It's because at the time we have some freeways access have to kind of go around and stuff like that, But we have this Japanese government pass, that's like a gold, I mean, the people probably kill for it. Because if you have it, there's gas station open specifically for that pass, people who has pass in there. You don't have to line up, you can get the gas. But if you don't have it, man, there's just absolutely, there's no mobility at all.
Yeah.
I know there's some vertical evacuation shelters along that part of the coast. Were you able to see any of those?
No, I didn't see that. I was looking for it,
And also, do you think this is going to change land use practices, land coastal management in Japan?
I don't really think what's going to happen in this area is that the population is generally older. Younger people kind of left. I just got a feeling some of the cities probably will not get rebuilt. I really do. Become ag use and stuff like that, And but unfortunately, Japan's land is very limited, and so knowing Japanese, I think they're going to try to build the higher seawalls.
So,
that kind of.
Was at a meeting last week about vertical evacuation in Southern California. But seeing these 3-story buildings where the water just goes over the top of them, how tall is tall enough.
Yeah.
But in 2003, 2004, Sendai and Tohoku Prefecture did a scenario in which, for planning purposes, and they predicted for a smaller earthquake, but closer, that there would be 10-meter tsunami heights offshore. And then at least the paper I read, I can't find the original reports. The paper just stops at that point. It said there will be. So they looked at power outage, and fires, and casualties, and building damages, and then it ends with, oh yes, there'll be a 10-meter tsunami. Period.
That's why maybe those signs are right on it, because 10-meter sign it goes right in there, And but it's a very interesting way to approach it. So they kind of knew what's going to happen in a way,
But it does look visible to do vertical evacuation so long as you know the water height, which could be pretty high in Japan. Another question?
Quick question. You didn't see any evidence of liquefaction?
Not that area, except in Tokyo, a town called Utsunomiya. Utsunomiya had a lot of liquefaction, and also Tokyo Bay. I didn't see it, but I saw it at the TV there, and I heard of it from University of Tokyo about the liquefaction issues in the area. But this area, I didn't see it.
There was a paper that I sent around to a few people, but I sent to Marjorie, so there was a discussion on the clearinghouse. It shows some liquefaction.
Yeah.
Mainly settlement.
I'm sure there was one, I'm sure evidence is totally washed away in a way.
Bigger damage, there wasn't that big.
Yeah. But see, I think it's almost impossible to see the evidence, especially at the right and coastal times, just everything totally washing back and forth. Just almost impossible to see what happened.
In the 78 quake, there was all sorts of liquefaction along all those canals and rivers everywhere.
So one of the things is there's some localized damage in Sendai in '78. The Tohoku University got trashed.
Yeah.
It got trashed again from at least the reports I've seen. It said that 50% of the buildings were red tagged.
Actually, that's a good point if you guys are going. If you take a look at our 78 report, it has the pictures of the buildings that were damaged, and I saw one of those in what you sent today that looked trashed, like about a 15-story building in Sendai. It'll be very interesting to compare 78 versus now, because we have records of both.
So it was a 7.7 magnitude earthquake, and it was something like that.
7.4.
7.4? There was two of them back to back. So.
Oh, I'm thinking 78 to 7.4, and there was one later. Yeah.
Now, do the shaking records, are they comparable between this and that? And the ground shaking?
There were very few records. I mean, one of the benefits of the Kobe earthquake was that the Japanese government has this K-net. So if you want to see the records, the Japanese government has put a strong motion accelerometer every kilometer, I think, in each direction on a pretty regular grid. So you can find it by going to something called K-net. And there's also Building Research Institute's Strong Motion Observatory that has a lot of their own records, but those tend to be around. They have one in Sendai, a government building that has records, and they have download instruments and things like that. But most of their instruments are in Tokyo. So it's around 20-30% G.
Yeah, and also many isolated buildings being activated in Tokyo too. The one in the University of Tokyo, the earthquake research institute building, they actually moved to like 12 centimeters.
So
high speed rail is operational?
I'm sorry?
High speed rail?
Oh, it's totally stopped.
No, not after we left.
Yeah, right now, no. Not go to Tohoku. To the west, it is.
So-
Essentially, there's no transportation to go up there right now.
Marjorie's not here. I don't have my glasses on, so it's a sea of faces. So there was a report that came out that is on the high-speed rails, some of the high-speed rail damages, and so it's pretty extensively damaged. It's just big cracks and lots of things, and foundation problems. Toll just met with Parsons Brinkerhoff, who's doing the California high-speed rails. They claim there's 4 high-speed rail trains missing because of the tsunami. So that's yet to be confirmed.
Did you see Sendai Station? I heard Sendai Station was, the Shinkansen station was
Damaged. I wasn't able to get in there, but it's definitely damaged, and they're doing a construction there to basically try to fix them.
So Yoshi Takahashi?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry?
No, Yoshi Takahashi, not
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
different Yoshi. At Kyoto, a colleague of Charlie's went and looked at the Shinkansen, and Kawamoto, I think at Tokyo Tech, in environmental engineering, looked at the Sendai station. So the JSCE website has lots and lots of stuff about the rail systems and the bridges. It's helpful, unless you just want to randomly look at pages to be able to read Japanese, which I don't. So I do the random walkthrough and see if there's an interesting picture on the page. Any other questions? Well, if not, I think then Kip would answer your questions at some other point. But thank you all for coming out.